Hello, hello, hello. Today is Monday. Oh my goodness. It seems like these months are just really flying by. It is July 29th, 2024. Are you ready for this? Are you ready? Goodness, it's already going into August. Are we ready for this? We ready? Well, it's Monday night and I'm feeling right. Okay. So I wanted to talk about a few things. I'm going to give people a chance to get in. But first, I want to talk about a few things. I was watching the news, right? I know it's a lot of people watching the news lately because it's really starting to get spicy. Plus, we have the Olympics going on. Congratulations, Team USA, all the way around. But anyway, I saw something on the news and it was talking about how our political government, the American political government, needs to do something to control the internet from the children. However, I remember it was kind of reminiscent in my opinion. I don't know, I'm not that old, but I had to study it in my academic studies. And it's reminiscent of how they tried to control television watching back when television became popular and a lot of people were just sitting around watching television. And the development of that is now the internet. And now they want to control how much, um, you know, internet access people have. And it's like, it just doesn't end well. It's a history, a long history showing that it just doesn't end well for that kind of control to be seen here in America, where people are restricted from doing things and having their voice heard. So it just, I don't know. It just seems like it's something else to it, something more to it, because, it wasn't children who grew up with quote unquote the internet who cyberbullied the sitting president out of running for a second term. I'm just saying it wasn't even the group of people who or the generation who approved of social media or the internet or computers who were the ones who cyberbullied the sitting president to withdraw his from the second term race. But that's just what I see and what I understand. But it's like these improvements that we're seeing, it's a lot of pushback about it, but it's not a lot of facts about it. So when we get the facts about things, that's when we can start having the confidence that we require to build a foundation of actually choosing and knowing how to vote or knowing how to choose from one thing from another. And the reason why I said it that way, because I was thinking vote and choice at the same time, and it just came out that way. But anyway, I just have a long history of oversimplifying complex topics. So everyone, despite unique learning abilities, have an increased ability to encode the information, which triggers a unique critical thinking skills for the purpose of making, that person's individual unique contribution to society. Because some people who normally are forcibly limited from making desirable improvements to society because of their limitations, we don't get to realize their ability to make these improvements in a way that no one else can speak to, because those people who are seeing things in a different perspective, from a different light, they have a lived experience that can help escalate things to grow and mature and improve in a way that's innovative and creative and also lucrative. And that's really, what everybody's focused on. How much money can we make out of this? But anyway, this is my time that I come on to volunteer to help with the global mental crisis that we're having. There's a lot of people who are having a great deal of significant issues. It's causing them significant financial problems as well as mental strain that we've never seen before. And it's like, what do we do about it? And how can we get help before we actually go and get someone who we can get the help from? Everybody that says they're helping you is not necessarily capable of helping you. Even though they try, even though they're licensed or whatever, it's still not speaking to everyone. So sometimes we have to do something on our own to help us be receptive of that help. So that's why I volunteer my time to come on and say, hey, this is how we can do this. And this is some things that I've learned over the years, over 20 years of academic writing that's speaking to these problems, that's speaking to the business and job markets and the school systems and the various systems that we lean and depend on to help structure and provide order to all the chaos that would normally be to replace that. And as an IO psych, an industrial organizational psychologist, my primary objective is to make or reinforce stronger links to why these topics are invaluable and directly connected to development, which informs investors, stockholders, etc., how to plan for a prosperous future. And a lot of times we like, well, we don't even know how these changes take place. We don't know what's going on. Or we take these surveys and we're not seeing the improvements that we're asking for or voting for. So we don't feel like our votes are counting. Let me tell you like this. I know the topic today is no affirmative action, no DEI. Problem? Can that be a problem? Well, let's talk about how it first came about in this show. Let's talk about why it even exists. Who came up with that idea? I guarantee you'll be surprised. And let's think about how we want to see things moving forward and why. It's a big question of why people should and shouldn't vote, if their vote even counts, where they should live, why they should live there. Let's address some of these issues by putting some information out here that's factual and you can track it. So, first I want to start off by saying I'm a helpmeet to women. Okay, women are a helpmeet. We are naturally born and created to be a helpmeet. To men who are the head. They lead, they guide, they protect. So I'm the helpmeet to the head, and the head protects me. I nourish the head, but together we live long and prosper, because it takes that give and take. It takes that kind of reciprocity, that give and receive. And it's not necessarily equal. And we have to stop looking for it to be equal, because we'll always be disappointed. It always messes with us mentally. So we have to stop looking for that. And by the way, this is an interactive live stream, so feel free to comment. But you know, I was hoping that, like, for example, if Biden, before you leave, how about that? Biden, check this out. Before you leave, sir, why don't you make a standing presidential law to forgive student debt, freedom for Americans to utilize the internet and self-educate and to be heard of their lived experience. A lot of people using it to talk about their lived experience, and keep American workplaces integrated with people of color. Cementing your name and your face and your lifelong history of service to your country, our country, not just for being the oldest person who's ever sat in the presidential status office in some sort of way, but for being wise enough to recognize why this Biden's law must be standing and irreversible despite 2025 future plans. Make America prosperous again. You know, it wasn't like it was some black person who came in white corporate America and said, hey, it's too white up in here. Let's get some black people in here. Let's call it affirmative action or something like that. That was not what happened. The studies show that centuries ago, the American workforce was led by white men, not white women and white men, but white men. And I get it. Thank you for being here, Eddie. Feel free to comment. I get it. A lot of people don't know the history of work. And sometimes people were I saw some people on the news trying to justify voting for Trump because they was like, we need somebody who has a business sense in order to take America where we need to go in the future. I don't know if you've read anything about the 2025 plans for the future of America, but that's not what it says. That's not even the gist of what it says. That's not even a roundabout where it's going with that. Since the development of Western recorded work history, Martin Luther of 1930s and John Calvin, they helped establish the workforce foundations in America. And they were religious guys. And I know a lot of people, they were like trying to flee from, the religious constraints of those monarchy and those, all of those restraints from man's orthodoxy. They wanted to flee from that and go somewhere where they can be free and exercise their free will without being in jeopardy of losing their life. And that's why they have it written, life and liberty, the pursuit of happiness. That's the reason why it's written that way. A lot of people, they may not know. And a lot of people don't necessarily, point that out at the most convenient time when people are asking the question, when people are trying to buck and say, well, I don't know why we're doing this. Well, tell them at that point in time, well, here in America, we like to exercise free will. And if you don't like that, you can go somewhere else where you don't have the ability to exercise your chances and choices to let your voice be heard, let people hear your lived experience and how that's affecting you and what company you work for, what organization you represent, so that we understand what their moral values are, so we understand how they conduct business, so we as a industry, a work industry, can determine whether we want to do business with them or not. And that's how that goes. Now, it was those religious Protestant leaders who heavily influenced Western culture. Their ideology of work drove Western work culture towards a lucrative and successful structure. That's the only reason why they ever actually said, oh, okay, yeah, let's do that. Let's try that. That's why they were like, well, we can make more money. We can make more money. We got to figure out a way to make more money. We went from being local to being national, but we need more money. Let me show you something. I'll do it in a little presentation so you can understand. So these guys are sitting there talking about, how can we make more money? How can we make more money? Well, I'll go and travel abroad and see how they're doing and see what they're doing overseas. Okay, you do that. You come back and you let us know how it goes. So he travels around, he goes abroad, and he sees how different people are working together. And in that community of unity and mass trade, they conclude, oh, that's what we need to do. We need to cross these barriers and have mass product trade. So he goes back and he talks to his boss, corporate white America, because they both look alike, and say, hey, we all look alike. So what we need to do is we need to integrate some other cultures. We are, because we look alike, we talk alike, we're doing the same things, but we'll never go international. We'll never have international trade, and we'll never be able to stretch our dollar the way everyone else is if we do not integrate people that don't look like us. What? I'm not aboard with that. We're not going to put other people in here that don't look like us and don't talk like us. I'm not on board with that. Well, we could call it affirmative action. Well, that sounds like I'm on board with some things that I don't really like. Well, I don't want to do that. Well, we could call it DEI and call it equal opportunity. Well, okay, but for a limited time only. Now we have it where we're back to the drawing board because we don't want to have affirmative action. We don't want to have DEI. And we're like, well, how can we make our dollar stretch? Now, on this dollar, America, not just America, but the world works in symbols and signs so that people will understand things. So on this dollar, that's why you have the thing that says we the people. Is helping you to understand for generations to come that this dollar is built on we the people. And on the back it says in God we trust. In God we trust. Now that's important because when Calvin and Martin Luther were sitting there trying to help Western culture, the workforce, to grow and expand and be prosperous, they said, well, we have to have a foundation that's not just based on one perspective. We have to have a back and forth. Now, Martin Luther was like, well, anybody who has an individual contribution, they are as equally as valuable as those who have a contribution that's physical. And Martin Luther was like, well, he really values intellectual contemplation and how they are able to think their way out of things and use critical thinking skills, philosophy, and all of those things. And that is what he valued. Well, the matter of the fact of whatever they name things, liberty, whatever they name things, it is the objective. It's the main objective that we need to focus on, as opposed to nitpicking on words and saying, oh, well, it's the way they saying it. The objective was to have people who don't look like you and people who don't talk like you and people who don't think like you to have this back and forth so that we can grow together, so we can have contributions that come from other walks of life and other lived experiences so that we can grow financially. And the reason why they even said that, yeah, we'll do it, is because their dollar was limited. But when they went overseas to see how they were doing and they saw how the riches were freely flowing, they were like, hey, we got to try it. Even if you don't like the people that don't look like you, we have to try this. What'd you say? Good evening. I haven't had the phone 2 weeks. Hey, it's cool. It's cool. Happy to have you, Jackie. Make sure you comment. I appreciate you for commenting now, but you don't have to make excuses. It's cool. Life happens. Life happens. What'd you like to say, Liberty? So it's okay to, it's not okay to misunderstand what people are saying. Asians don't look like white America, do they? And I just said that studies show a long history of how corporate America in the workforce were all white. That's why I use the teddy bears. Do I need to get them teddy bears again? So we're gonna get the teddy bears again so we can see, so we can show you how you can see that these look alike. But what they said was we can't go any further if we stay limited to what we look like. We must expand and bring in some people that don't look like us, that don't talk like us, that don't think like us, that weren't educated the way we were educated, so that we can have the benefits of how it's lucrative to be integrated, fully integrated with people who do not look like us. Martin Luther, he believed that people's success was individually based, not based on a set scale and standard. As long as work was done in the spirit of obedience to God, all work forms are equal service to God on earth. So some people who work with their hands and those who use their minds are equally valuable. That's the way he felt. But Calvin, John Calvin and his Calvinism says all that's great, Luther, but labor is for everyone, even the rich. Imagine that. Calvin said even the rich should work. So the rich don't look like the poor, do they? No, they don't. And they don't have the lived experiences of the poor and the underclass and the socially awkward and the shut-ins. They don't have the same experiences. And when we limit ourselves to only those people who look like us, act like us, walk like us, talk like us, think like us, we are limiting our ability to grow and prosper. So Calvin was like, idleness and lust after the fruits of one's labor is what we should be shunning. That's what we should not like, or make people avoid, lavishing in. Don't do that. But you know occasional work, we're not going to even talk about occasional work, because we got to work all the time. So out of Calvinism came Puritanism, and uh, but they were like, say it's one's duty to get the greatest gains from work, because they wanted to expound on Calvin's ideology of mass trade, getting a whole lot of people together to trade goods and do a commerce that way. But everybody was like not on board with that, because they was like, why should we share? This was back before they even cared about dollars and cents, because all what they had was more valuable and they knew it. And it wasn't until they put a dollar value on it where people were like, oh, okay, well, your labor for this product and your time and effort for this much of that product, this is how much money we'll give you. And if you take this money, you can spend this money to buy other things that you did not make with your own hands, that you did not invest your own time into doing. And you can go and use it to trade with people who don't look like you, but have something that you value in a monetary type of sense. Or it may not just be a monetary type of sense, but you may feel like, oh, okay, this is a good trade if I give you this much money for what you have to offer. And that's where we started to develop classes of how we're going to use trade and how we're going to value people's efforts. It was not to say, okay, well, we're just going to keep ourselves limited to those people who look like us, act like us, walk like us, think like. It was not for that purpose, because it's very limited. It's too limited. It's too restricted. And after a while, people go and they look at other things, they fall in love with it, and they don't want to be bottled up. They don't want to be put in a box where it's like, oh, if you don't let me go, then I won't be your friend. They were like, okay, well, you won't be my friend then. Okay, you won't patronize my organization then. But I'm going to go over here where people don't look like me and they have something I want to trade. And my dollar is going to last longer for generations, as opposed to being restricted to just these people that look like me, act like me, and talk like me. And as their generations continue to dwindle out because they have more and more restrictions and nobody can thrive that way, they can only dwindle away, then that target audience your dollar is even smaller and you'll fail to thrive completely, as opposed to just getting along, finding reasons why you could say, let's be fully integrated and let's continue to prosper in this manner, because we're not limiting ourselves to one. It's too restrictive. You got to look like me. You got to talk like me. You got to act like me. You got to think like me. You got to have your kids go to the same private school as I do. And then you guys got to make the same decisions that I make. Even if you don't like those decisions, you still got to go along with it. It doesn't work out. And that's the reason why we had all this choice. It was somebody who looked just like them who discovered, hey, we got to go over here and do this, or else we will not prosper. We'll fail. We have to stretch the dollar. And that's why they said, okay, well, we'll stretch the dollar, but we'll put some symbols on there so that we won't have this problem again later. And they use symbols on their money to say, we the people. So it came to an understanding that it's not just the people who look alike, but all of the people who are here in America, who migrated here, even all the migrants that migrated here, all the immigrants that migrated here back when Columbus came over and the Native Americans welcomed them here. They were like, we have to come up with some way that we will not repeat this history where we are limiting our dollar, where we are limiting our ability to prosper, whether it's from illness, whether it's from, education, whatever way we're trying to prosper and gain. That's what the objective was. They didn't want to stay in Europe. They didn't want to stay in England. They didn't want to stay in Korea. They didn't want to stay in Asia. They didn't want to stay in Africa. They wanted to migrate somewhere where they can actually be heard freely and exercise their free will to contribute in a completely unique way that will be prosperous for everyone involved. So that when we have the international trading, guess what? Everyone benefits, because now you have a little bit, I have a little bit, and it's added to all the amount, however much that is, that we already had innately by just working nationally, locally. We have all of that, but now we have a little bit more that you contributed in a way that we wouldn't have seen otherwise. We would not have known that otherwise. It was Aristotle and St. Thomas who glorified intellectual contemplation the ways of life. But Bertano's empirical standpoint noted in the early 1800s that the human conscious of the primary objective and the consciousness of the secondary object are not something that's distinctly phenomenal. It's all unified and it's happening all at once. That means that centuries ago, in the early 1800s, philosophers and people of in the industrial organizations who structured these Western systems of industrial works and even education, they concluded a long time ago that people can understand multiple complex topics all at the same time. So your cognitive flexibility permits you to have ability to say, well, that's really complicated. I understand it, even if I don't agree with it. I understand it, even if I don't like it. I understand it, even if I am rather limited to which one I can choose from. If I choose either, both sides are corrupt and unorthodox in the manner in which Martin Luther and Calvin created the foundations for Western work history. But we can't go too far over to the left side too fast, because there's no room to go back. There's no room to walk it back. And that's one of the major problems that we're seeing when we say, well, automatically just take out affirmative action because I don't want to make it seem like I'm in agreement with putting people of color, whatever color they are, just not white. I'm not in agreement with that. They can keep their money overseas. I don't want their money. We just find another way to have value in trade. We'll figure something else out. It just didn't work. And it was white corporate America who determined that. And it was these symbols in money and various books that a lot of people really need to read, so you can have that confidence and understanding why this is not the world we want to go back to. It was already determined that that is not going to end well. And it's not just a matter of the fact that it's financial bankruptcy, but it's a moral bankruptcy as well. Because when we cannot understand that it was people who look like us who determined that this is the way we prosper, and we can't respect that, comes some generations later, that means we are condemning people who look like us to go through and endure hardships that were avoidable, even though that's not what we really intended. It's also disrespectful because those were your ancestors who concluded that the people who don't look like you, the people of color, the people who have some disabilities or oddities that just aren't like you, they have something to contribute that you will never be able to see other than having heard their lived experiences and having the empirical studies that support the ideologies that the Western culture workforce was built on and was made prosperous on. I remember writing about how Walmart tried to integrate into stretching their dollar from being local and national to being international. And they were like, well, we don't understand why we can't integrate overseas. We want to, and we're trying to, because we understand that this is the only way to prosper. Generational wealth can be a monster, especially because as you continue to grow, people, they have different ideas and understandings and different loves, and they're going to look different than what it is that they started from. So I wrote about how the people overseas maintained that faith-based ideology of how to prosper, like Martin Luther and Calvin and John Calvin did back in the 1930s and early 1800s, how they figured this is the way we have to go. And so that we never forget, let's put it on our currency and say, we the people, in God we trust. And there's no way that you can take that out of the system, of the process, of the foundation, and continue to have a firm foundation to build on. You can't do it. It's been tried. It's been tried in too big to fail companies who have failed as a result. And a lot of studies will point to how that came about, but they don't directly state it because you have to do things in a manner that's politically correct. So anyway, I wrote some things in this book that'll help you to understand the fundamental understandings that you can't avoid, you can't go back on. And it's like, how do we know? How do we know if we keep destroying the books? Now, I understand people don't want to read an encyclopedia. So this is definitely not as big as an encyclopedia. And people don't want to keep jumping from a bunch of books to another one and searching through a bunch of search engines, trying to figure out who's telling the truth and who's not telling the truth, what they're saying and what they're not saying. It can be difficult, but your understanding, your confidence in your understanding is only limited to your ability to know what material to read. And that's why I wrote my book, so that you can have that understanding. But a lot of people are not aware. They don't know that, oh, well, what do I read? How do I um how do I find the information that I need in order to prosper, in order to help my mental space improve? And I don't want to pay a lot of money in order to do that, because money is scarce. Money is hard to come by. I I I I put some information on Facebook, and I try to put stuff on social media so people can, grab that and see, how can this help you? What is this about? Um, what can you do? Because we're confused. A lot of people are just plain and simply confused. They don't know what to do, and they don't know who to turn to. And before they can even leave to find the person who can actually help them, we need to have something tangible, something we can reach. And I put it on social media that this book is now available on Amazon. Yeah, it's going to be a little bit costly, but it's because the information that's inside of it, you can read it in 2 days and have the confidence of the understanding that you need to have. And Liberty, the reason why I did not address more of your comments is because I succinctly said it very clear without having to constantly browbeat it and run the risk of saying things that might be a little bit insensitive to your perspective, because I'm trying to get you to understand something, but you're trying to put words in my mouth as if I'm saying those things. And I have the cognitive ability to understand I'm not here to fight. I'm here to inform. Now you can read these things or you don't have to. I'm only informing of the water of life. I'm not forcing or convincing you to drink it. That's your choice. That's your free will. God gave you free will. I ain't here to take it from you. So do as you choose, but understand the consequences. Understand what that means. Understand how, if you choose not to choose, you've already chosen. Do you understand that? Some people say, well, I'm not going to vote. I'm not going to vote means that you've already voted. Do you understand that? If we can understand just for a moment that phenomenons, God is phenomenal, and he's constantly moving in a phenomenal way. And a lot of the things, a lot of the structures that we see are successful and financially profitable, lucrative overseas are based on faith and the understanding of how God moves and how the Spirit influences us to perform with our hands, with our minds, and all the effort that we're taking in order to be financially profitable, to be mentally stable, to have the ability to thrive in the workforce, in the schooling, and in our places of and establishments of faith, by whatever name you want to call it, your faith place organization. We need to stop trying to recreate the wheel. Stop trying to take away that solid, strong foundation and replace it with what? Opinions? That's not going to work out. Because just like everybody in this world, we all have an opinion, but facts are stubborn. Facts are irresistible to adhere to if you want to prosper, if you want to have a sound mind, if you want to have money, if you want to have generational wealth, even if it starts out with just a few dollars with you today. It's not about change so much as it's about improvements. You don't just take the whole wheel and throw it away and say, well, we're not going to base anything off of any kind of faith, when we already understand that it's God who gives us the influence of thoughts and inspiration to do various things. And then we act on that. And then we have money, currency, wealth. We have something that we can thrive on. And it's not controlled by man orthodoxy. So it's not about you saying, okay, we're going to limit everybody only to that looks just like us. We already been there. We've done that. It didn't work out. And that's why we have things like affirmative action, DEI. And what's the objective behind those things? The objective is stretching the dollar, stretching your currency beyond the boundaries of only those who look like you, think like you, act like you, have the same creative thought as you, and you only exchanging that same $10, that same $10, that same $10 going from this hand to that hand, same $10, same $10. There's nothing extra. There can be nothing extra because you're all in the same space. You're all in the same space. You want to add in some more currency. You want to add in more wealth. You must open it up and keep it open so that people who don't look like you can contribute. So you have more than the same thing, exchanging the same hands, you and your neighbor sharing the same thing and never prospering, to go beyond that. Because you chose, or you chose not to choose. Either way, you still made the decision to do nothing, to improve your situation. It's risky, yeah, but without taking that risk, there's nothing to gain. It's not taking away that same $10. It's not taking away that same currency, exchanging hands. You still have that. You'll just have more because you'll now have a third hand coming in, contributing, and a fourth hand, and a fifth hand, and whatever other people that you decide to integrate into that inclusion to make this trade. You cannot prosper if you cannot include more people, include more money, more currency, more gifts, more creativity. You're limited to just this one bill passing back and forth until somebody says, oh, I don't want it anymore. Keep it. Keep it. This is what we base all of our understanding on. What do you mean, keep it? Does that mean you're not going to trade what we keep trading for? You're not going to give it to me now because you don't want this same $10? Well, yeah, because now I'm going to go over here because I see some other things I never knew I might like. And I love it. I love it. Now you stuck holding that same $10. It's no value in it because now no one wants it. No one wants it. And that's where we were back when white American corporate offices decided to integrate people of color into their workforce. That happened so long ago. I don't even understand why we're still going back over that. Why are we still stumbling over those stumbling blocks that we, the people, have already concluded that in God we will trust, and we will integrate working with people who don't look like us, who don't act like us, because they have something to contribute, which is more money, more hands, more creativity, instead of staying stuck and failing to thrive and watching people who look like us go over there overseas and be happy because you stuck holding the $10 that both of y'all were trading back and forth. He left you with nothing. He went with nothing and gained a lot while you still stuck there holding that same $10 that y'all was trading back and forth. Their money is stretching for generations while yours is dwindling away. And it didn't have to be that way because it's open to everyone. You're the only one trying to limit yourself and limit your generations of people that you're bringing into this world. And who's to say that they're going to agree with you and stay with you? You ever heard somebody say, look, granddad, look, grandma, your ways of thinking are long over. We're going to do it this way now. Now you stuck there with your $10 in memories because you don't even have your future generations supporting you. And that $10 ain't worth nothing because nobody's going to trade anything with you for that. Nobody's going to trade with you because you're too limited. You're too restricted to something that's long over. It's long over. It was decided a long time ago before you decided to be a thought in your daddy's mind, be a growth in your mama's belly. It was decided a long time ago that this is the only way America will prosper. And Americans said, you know what? I don't like to be told what to do. I like it this way. I like having that extra money. I like having those extra hands and extra people. Is that my money you owe me? Well, if I owe you some money, come get it. Anyway, see, that's husband and wife talk. He can't do nothing about it. Nothing I wouldn't like anyway. I'm just saying. But anyway, in summary, what am I saying? When Americans can justify oppressing one, they've already found a way to justify oppressing everyone. That is what we've seen in history. That is what we know to be factual, regardless of who's saying it, how they writing it, how they saying it. And here in this book, I've shown people in a very, very succinct way. You could just read this tiny little book that's packed with a bunch of information in just a few pages, and you can see for yourself. And what is that book called? Generational Wealth, Information Asymmetry, and Your Success. It's available on YouTube and lulu.com. Now, in this episode, I'm telling you the formula to make America prosperous again. That's what we really want. We want America to be prosperous again. Teddy, I don't know why I'm froze, but I certainly hope that it's not seen like that on YouTube. It's like that on YouTube. You can only hear me and not see me. Just see this crazy looking face. That I'm froze. Okay, Eddie, you might want to come on here and do something about it. But the only way that we can make America prosperous again was already determined by white corporate America long before we ever got to 2024, long before 2025 was ever written. The only way that we can do what needs to be done is we need to continue to follow that path. And that is why the American currency was created the way it is. We, the people, In God we trust, and we are going to continue to fully integrate we, the people, we, the American people. I don't know. Maybe, yeah, that didn't work. So maybe, I don't know, that might not help either. But we need to go back and look at this money. Go and look at this um what is it? The American currency, and see what we're doing. What are we doing wrong? How is it that we aren't getting the picture now? How is it that we're not understanding now? How is it that we keep having these same battles with the same stumbling stones, the same stumbling blocks? That's because we keep exchanging that same $10 from one hand that looks like mine to another hand that looks like yours, and we both look the same. It's still the same $10. We have to remember we got to integrate some more people, integrate some more currency, integrate some more, and not be limited. And we certainly aren't going to get away with limiting Americans, restricting Americans. That's historical. Nobody's going for that. Not an American. I'm just saying. But the further summary, the leadership transformative environment was predicted to take a turn for inclusion the moment corporate America discovered how profitable international trade is. It's still profitable. You see how we have wars and they exchange oil for as commerce and weapons for commerce, and we're exchanging all these things. That's because long time ago, corporate America, back when everybody was just white, they decided we're not going to get far just being white. We have to have all the various cultures to help America. That's why you have Asian Americans, African Americans, Hispanic Americans, Latino Americans. That's why you have different and what is it? Italian Americans, all kinds of different types of Americans, because we, the people, have one solid commonality: in God we trust. And we keep on building so we can exchange more than that same $10 from the same hands. We integrate more people and more color and more cultures and from different countries. It takes a group unity working. A group unity, that means the people in diverse cultures. Work unity, that means various workplaces. I don't care if you're the trash man. Imagine if the trash man said, well, I'm only going to take the trash from the people who look like me, who have the same finances that I do. Imagine he said, I'm only going to take their trash. You'd be stuck. So it takes all of them, all different genres of workplace organizations, the unity of them, and an industrial organizational structure and approach to prevent avoidable financial hazardous disasters that occur as a domino effect of you saying, inclusion. What inclusion? I'm not doing that. We'll just keep exchanging this same $10 for as long as my neighbor will keep on exchanging that same $10 until they leave me hanging with that $10 and go and thrive, because they found they can. They can thrive if they stop letting you hold them back, because you hold that measly $10, same $10 over their head, exchanging the same trade. You have the same trade. There's nothing better. I would like to eat more than watermelon and chicken and catfish. I'm eating some lamb. I'm eating oranges, and I'm understanding the symbolism to that and how that means life and prosperity and health. I'm eating um, salmon and understanding how that relates to my prosperity and health and wealth and mental health. I'm I'm meditating because they show how to meditate. It's not just a religious or spiritual praying thing. It's about you quieting your mind in the midst of chaos, just quieting your mind. So it's not, I'm not saying literally me. I'm saying this is the objective. This is the objective, to integrate these things that we wouldn't have known about if we didn't look at other people and how they are coping in this world that we're living in today. It's not just American ideologies. And as if you look at it, American ideologies are really a compilation of things that we got from people abroad, overseas. So really, it's not American. It's just, some stuff we call American. I'm just saying. That's right, Jackie. Peace be still. And a lot of times in America, that's what we really need, because we are seeing that Americans in their free will are exercising some really fatal decisions, and we can't predict where it's going to come from, who is going to do it, why they're going to do it. We don't know. And we're all tired as Americans. We're tired of guessing if it's safe to go shopping today, if it's safe to voice our opinion today, if it's safe to do this trash talking and political presidential debates and all of the things that we say, normally trash talking that we did before the pandemic. We don't know if it's safe anymore because we didn't address these mental problems. And instead of addressing it, we say, hey, way, let's keep exchanging this same $10 because we got enough money now. You'll never have enough. That's one thing you always come to learn in business. You could never have enough money. You could never be rich enough. And that's why we have the Puritans ideology of grab that bag. That's it. They're like, I don't care. We can just keep on getting that bag, keep on getting that money, keep going for that money. And it came from Calvinism, which was like, okay, Martin Luther, you're just too humble for me. We need to, do more than just this little bit. We need to expand, and everybody, to include the rich, need to work for that money, work for that commerce, work for that financial trade, work for that coin. Everybody, just don't lust after it. And the Puritans said, we gonna lust after it. We gonna grab every bag we can. That's how we gonna work. But there's a middle ground. And in that middle ground, you can be on board with it for your mental health and your physical wealth, for your generational wealth, so that your generations can be proud of you. It's like, well, you had a bad idea and it was starting to go wrong, but you turned it around. You turned it around and we're over it. We're good now. It's okay because we're good now. That's what happened already. We did that when we said we're going to have affirmative action and DEI, which was a politically correct way to say affirmative action without seeming like you're against white America, without saying you're against people who look like you. You don't have to pick whether you're against your own people just because you want to integrate other people. It's not about that. It's about prospering for generations and not limiting yourself to this back and forth that's meaningless. It's meaningless. without growth. There's no new currency coming in. There's no new materials and trade coming in. That's all it's saying. It's not to devalue anyone. It's not to say you have to pick who's better or worse. It is not about that. We can all be happy. We can all be wealthy. We can all be mentally sound. What you say, Jackie? Right. Each one reach one. That's no color. It has no color. It has no color. Even currency has different colors. It's the objective behind the currency that everybody's trying to get to. And what's that? Thriving. Thriving. We all want to thrive. And that's what we're picking. We're voting to say we could prosper more if we do this than we can if we do that. That's what you're voting for. Can we prosper more with 2025 perspectives for America, or without the perspectives of 2025 for America? And from what this symbol says on this money, we the people and in God we trust, that right there is your answer. 2025 perspectives for America is not where we're headed, because we've been there, we've done that. It was not productive. We won't do it again. The masses will not agree to do it again. There will be pushback, and there'll always be pushback, because you just can't tell Americans what to do. You can fool some people some of the time, but you will never fool them all at the same time. And you won't have nobody to watch your back either. But if we had a sound mind, we can all live peaceably without the need to watch anybody's back, because we're not preying or oppressing anybody. We're not preying on anybody. We're not oppressing anybody. We're letting life and liberty and the pursuit of happiness be in the forefronts of our minds and our behaviors in the academic industry, in the industrial workforces, in every workplace, and every faith-based organization. That's my time for today. Remember, mental health is physical wealth. Teddy, take us out of here. I don't know, Teddy. Are you there to take us out of here? I'm over my time. Okay, take us out. Mental health